Signature Beats. Damn, Master.
All right, first and foremost, start out by giving all praises, all honor, and all glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, through his only begotten Son, Jesus the Christ. Secondly, I want to say Shalom. My name is Chief Priest Lithiel.
Shalom, Israel. My name is Priest Ron Ben Israel.
And we are with the Holy Nation of Israel. You can find us on YouTube at Strait Gate of Israel. You can find us on Facebook at Holy Nation of Israel. But we're going to cut all the formalities, get straight to it. This is going to be a class based on history. Our history, the history of the Israelites. Specifically the history of Hanukkah. The history of the Feast of Dedication. That's what we're going to go over in this class. So to all my brothers and sisters out there, get your Bibles, get your Apocryphas, and read along with us if it's in your spirit. Remember, the scriptures say, blessed is he that readeth. Also, get your notebooks, get your pens, get your paper, get your pencils, and take notes. Write these precepts down. Commit this history to memory, yo. This is going to be a class we are going to call Hanukkah. The history of the Feast of Dedication. Let's open up in Daniel 8 and 1.
The book of Daniel, chapter 8 and verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first.
So who is Belshazzar? Who is Belshazzar? Go to Daniel chapter 7 and verse 1. Let's see who he is real quick.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 1. In the 1st year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon.
So Belshazzar, King Belshazzar, was the king of Babylon. Read.
Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed.
Mm-hmm.
Then he wrote the dream and told some of the matter.
Yeah, right here, Daniel had a vision of 4 beasts. First beast being a lion, second being a bear, the third being a leopard, the fourth was not expounded upon to Daniel. That's the vision he had here. Let's go from there. Let's go to Daniel chapter 5. Daniel chapter 5 and verse 1.
The book of Daniel, chapter 5, starting at verse 1. Belshazzar, the king, made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords.
This is Belshazzar, the king of Babylon. He made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords. Read.
And drank wine before the 1,000.
So they had a feast and they drank wine at this feast. Keep reading.
Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar.
Read the annotation next to father real quick.
Annotation next to father in my book says grandfather.
So Nebuchadnezzar was a grandfather to Belteshazzar. Nebuchadnezzar was a grandfather to Belteshazzar. Keep reading, priest.
Had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein.
That they might drink therein, yo. That they may drink therein. That they can feast and drink and party. Keep reading, priest.
Verse 3. Then they brought the golden vessel that were taken out of the temple of the house of God.
Then they brought the golden vessels that Belshazzar's grandfather stole out of the temple of God. Keep reading, priest.
Of the temple of the house of God, which was at Jerusalem. And the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them.
They feasted, they partied, and they drank in those golden vessels. The golden vessels that Nebuchadnezzar stole out of the temple that was in Jerusalem. Keep reading.
Verse 4. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone.
Keep reading.
In the same hour.
In the same hour that they drank the wine and praised the gods of gold and the gods of silver and the gods of brass and of iron, of wood, and the gods of stone. In that same hour. Read it again.
Verse 5. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand.
In that same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand. Fingers of a man's hand just appeared out of nowhere. Keep reading.
Came forth fingers of a man's hand, and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote.
So in the same hour they drank wine and praised the false gods of gold and silver and brass and iron and wood and stone. In that same hour appeared fingers of a man's hands, writing on the wall of the king's palace, writing on Belshazzar's wall. The question is, what was this writing? Let's jump over to verse 25.
Verse 25.
What is the writing on the wall? Let's find out.
And this is the writing. And this is the writing that was written. Many, Takal.
Yep, Tekel.
Upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing.
So this is the interpretation of the writing. The writing, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation. Keep reading.
Mene, God have numbered thy kingdom. And finished it.
Read.
Tekel, thou art weighted in the balance and are found wanting. Peres, I'm saying that right?
Yep.
Peres, thy kingdom is divided.
Thy kingdom is divided in what?
And given to the Medes and Persians.
Your kingdom is divided and has been given to the Medes and the Persians. Mene, Tekel, Upharsin means number, weight, division. God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Thou art weighed in the balances and found wanting or found lacking, yo. Your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Jump down to verse 30.
Verse 30. And that night.
In that same night in which the writing on the wall was interpreted by Daniel. In that same night, read.
And that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain.
In that same night, Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, was murdered. Keep reading.
And Darius the Median.
Read.
Took the kingdom.
He took the kingdom. He took the kingdom of the Chaldeans. Read.
Being about 62 years old.
Being about 62 years old. 62 years old. And I have an annotation in my Bible next to about 62 years old. And it says, or now. Meaning he was 62 years old when he took the realm of the Chaldeans. Let's go back to the book of Daniel chapter 8 and verse 1.
The book of Daniel chapter 8 and verse 1. In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar.
In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar. King Belshazzar was the king of Babylon, a grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Keep reading.
A vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first.
The vision that appeared to Daniel at first was the vision in Daniel chapter 7 and verse 1. That vision that appeared to Daniel in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon. That vision that dealt with the four beasts. The lion, the bear, the leopard, and the fourth beast that was not expounded to Daniel. That was the first vision. Now Daniel's getting a second vision in the third year of Belshazzar. Keep reading, priest.
Verse 2. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace.
He said he was at Shushan in the palace. Read.
Which is in the province of Elam.
Which is in the province of Elam. Elam was Persia. Elam today is modern day Iran. And Shushan was the capital of Elam, the capital of ancient Persia. That's what Shushan was. And that's where Daniel was, in the king's palace. Esther, when you read Esther, she was in Shushan, in the king's palace, in Elam, in Persia. When you read about Nehemiah, he was a cupbearer He worked in the palace in Shushan, in the king's palace, in the province of Elam, in Persia. This is where this is happening again. Keep reading, priest.
And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai.
The river Ulai runs through Persia. It runs through Elam. So he was by the river Ulai. Keep reading.
Then I lifted up my eyes.
Matter of fact, hold on. Before we continue, I just thought I got to get this. I'd be remiss if I don't get it. This is Nelson's Illustrated Encyclopedia of Bible Facts. We're going to go to page 137 real quick. And I'm just going to read the caption under the depiction. Just going to read the caption under the depiction. Page 137. It says, Shushan, also known as Susa, spelled S-U-S-A. This ancient city in southwestern Persia, which is modern-day Iran, became a capital city of the Persian Empire. So Shushan, which is also called Susa, was the capital city of the Persian Empire, in ancient times. Let's go back. Daniel 8 and verse 3.
Book of Daniel, chapter 8 and verse 3.
Read.
Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river.
There stood before the river Ulai. Read.
A ram.
There stood before the river Ulai a ram. Read.
Which had two horns.
And this ram had two horns. Read.
And the two horns were high.
And both of these horns were high. Read.
But one was higher than the other.
But one horn was higher than the other horn. Read.
And the higher came up last.
And the highest horn came up last. Who is this ram? Who is this ram? Stay in the same book. Give me verse 20.
Verse 20. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia.
So the ram that Daniel saw by the river Ulai that had two horns, two high horns, with one higher than the other, those represent the kings or the kingdoms of Media and Persia. The kingdoms of Media and Persia. Go back to Daniel 8. Well, we're already in Daniel 8. Jump back to verse 3 for me real quick.
All right, verse 3. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns.
There stood before the river Ulai a ram that had two horns. This ram represents the kingdoms of Media and Persia. Keep reading.
And the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other.
But one was higher than the other. Read.
And the higher came up last.
And the higher came up last. The horn that came up last, the horn that was higher than the other, represents Persia. Persia came up after Media and became a controlling world superpower. We're going to go back to this Bible encyclopedia, which we're going to touch a couple times. We're going to touch this a couple times. We're going to go to page 133. Page 133. And I'm going to start at, this is under the Persians. Second paragraph. It says, of the tribes which settled in northern Iran, only the Medes and Persians are of significance to this study, since they had the most influence on Bible people and times. Their emergence as a formidable political power took nearly 1,000 years. By about 700 BC, Media and Persia were established, although they were subject to Assyria. Assyria had by that time conquered the northern kingdom of Israel. The Persians freed themselves from Assyrian dominance in 681 BC when Achaemenes was their king. However, the Assyrian cuneiform is a writing style, the Assyrian cuneiform became the basis for the Persian system of writing. His two sons, meaning the two sons of Achaemenes, his two sons quarreled among themselves when they inherited the throne. And they divided the kingdom of Persia, into two parts. Very soon, however, one of those kingdoms that was divided, called Parsa, was absorbed by Media. You know why? Because Media was already established. Persia wasn't. That's why he said one of the horns came up first. The horn that came up first was Media. The horn that came up after it was Persia. Persia came up after Media. Let me read it again. It says, very soon, however, one of those kingdoms called Parsa was absorbed by Media. The other kingdom, centered in a region called Anshan, provided the basis for the eventual Persian Empire. See, Media came first. Then Persia came later on. Later on. That's why these white people said Persia came eventually after the kingdom of Media. It says, in the first dynasty, the Achaemenid dynasty, that lasted till 330 BC. We're going to go over to page 134. This is under the rise of Cyrus the Great. Nothing great about him, but they call him Cyrus the Great. It says, Cyaxares' granddaughter was married to Cambyses the First, Persian king of Anshan. The son born out of this marriage was Cyrus II, known as Cyrus the Great. Under Cyrus II, the Persian power had to be reckoned with. When he was crowned king of Anshan in 559 BC, the Persians still paid tribute to Media. Yeah, the Persians were subjected to the Medes. They had to pay tribute to them. You know, to pay tribute to another kingdom means you pay taxes. They were paying taxes. They were paying tolls. They were doing all of that. Why? Because Media was established before Persia. Media had control in this world before Persia did. But it changed, though. It says, where was that? It says, I'm going to start right here. By about 550 BC, Cyrus had defeated his grandfather, Astyages, king of the Medes, and taken his capital Ecbatana. Cyrus then gave himself the title of king of the Medes and made Ecbatana his headquarters. By permitting the Median officials to remain in office, he won their allegiance to him. All of the Median empire fell to Cyrus. Persia came up last, and they were the greatest. They were greater than Media. That's why it says all the Median empire fell to Cyrus. He marched westward and claimed Armenia, Cappadocia, Cilicia, Lydia, Greek city-states in Asia Minor. Asia Minor is Turkey. Asia Minor is Turkey. It says, and Greek islands. Eastward, his conquest included all of Iran. So when Persia came up, they began to conquer, yo. They began to conquer everything. Matter of fact, let's go back to the book of Daniel chapter 8, and let's read verse 4.
Verse 4, the book of Daniel chapter 8 and verse 4. I saw the ram pushing westward.
Daniel said he saw the ram doing what?
Pushing westward. And northward and southward.
Daniel said he saw the ram pushing westward, northward, and southward. Meaning Daniel saw the Persians and the Medes conquering places like Cappadocia, Cilicia, Lydia, and the Greek city-states in Asia Minor. That's what Daniel saw. Keep reading, priest.
So that no beast might stand before him.
These beasts is talking about nations. Just like when you read about in Daniel 7. Those beasts represented nations. The lion represented a nation, which is Babylon. The bear represented a nation, Persia Media. The leopard represented a nation. It represented the Greeks. Beasts represent people, man. Beast represents nations in the Bible. Keep reading.
So that no beast might stand before
So
him.
that no nation might stand before him. And no nation could stand before them at that time. Read.
Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand.
Meaning no one could save out of his hands. Read.
But he did according to his will.
He did according to his will. Read.
And became great.
And it became great. It became the greatest world superpower at the time, yo. They became the greatest world superpower at that time. Keep reading.
Verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Who is this goat? Stay in the same chapter. Jump down to verse 21.
Verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
The rough goat is the kingdom of Grecia. The kingdom of Greece. And the notable horn that's between his eyes is referencing the first king of Greece. The first king of Greece was Alexander the Greek. He was the first king over Greece. A united Greece. The first king over a united Greece. Go back to, stay in the same chapter, of course. Let's go back to verse
5.
Yeah, let's read 5 again.
All right, verse 5. And I was considering, behold, And a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground.
The he-goat represents Greece. Keep reading.
And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
The notable horn between his eyes represents the first king over Greece, Alexander the Greek. Read.
And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river.
Which he had saw standing before the river Ulai. Read.
And ran unto him in the fury of his power.
And came to make war with him, yo. In the fury of his power. Greece came to make war with Persia and Media. Keep reading.
And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with the choler.
With choler.
Choler.
Choler is extreme hatred. Extreme hatred. Read.
Choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns.
And he smote the ram, and he brake his two horns, meaning he broke the two kingdoms of Persia and Media. Keep reading.
And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, because he cast him down to the ground.
He cast him down to the ground, killed him,
and
subjugated him, made them tributaries. Keep reading.
And stamped upon him.
And stamped on him. Read.
And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
And nobody could save Persia and Media when Greece conquered. Let's go back to this encyclopedia again. Page 155. Page 155. And we're going to start the fourth paragraph under section B. Fourth paragraph. All right, here we go. It says, in 336 BC, when Alexander was 20 years old, his father Philip was assassinated under mysterious circumstances, and Alexander was made the new Macedonian king. His rivals spread rumors of Alexander's own death, and he spent much of the following year in quelling revolts that these rumors inspired. He destroyed Thebes in the process. This gave him, the him being Alexander, this gave him undisputed control over the Hellenic Peninsula, meaning he became king over the Hellenic Peninsula. What is the Hellenic Peninsula? We're going to go to page 148 real quick. Read it out of this so people know what the Hellenic Peninsula is. This is page 148 under the Greeks and Hellenism. It says ancient Greeks called their land which we call today Greece. It says ancient Greeks called their land Hellas, and they called themselves Hellenes. So when you're reading about Alexander the Greek gaining undisputed control over the Hellenic Peninsula, it's telling you that Alexander the Greek was named the first king over the Greek peninsula. That's what it's telling you. He was named the first king over Greece. Let's go over here. Let me jump over real quick. I'm going to jump down. This is back on page 155. It says, the march towards Persia. In spring of 334 BC, Alexander led his army of 40,000 men across the Dardanelles into Asia Minor. Once again, when you read about Asia Minor, you're reading about Turkey, modern-day Turkey. It says, and first engaged the Persians at the Grantius River. The Persians advanced guard, lightly armed and unaccustomed to Macedonian tactics, were overwhelmed. Alexander had planned only to free the Greek cities, then under Persian control. Remember we read earlier that Cyrus II, also known to history as Cyrus the Great, wasn't great at all, but remember we read that he conquered certain Greek city-states. We read that he conquered places in Asia Minor. We read that. So Alexander, he wanted to take control. He wanted to take control again of those places that were conquered earlier by Cyrus II. I'm going to read it again. It says, Alexander had planned only to free the Greek cities, then under Persian control. But resounding victory spurred him to strike at the heart of the empire itself. This was no madcap venture. The word madcap means impulsive, meaning Alexander wasn't acting impulsively. This was no madcap venture. Darius III, the Persian king, was a poor leader, and his provincial officials were unreliable. The unwieldy empire was ready to fall in pieces. The victory at the Grantius River quickly opened the towns of Sardis, Ephesus, and Miletus. Ephesus is famous, yo. We all know about Ephesus. We all know about the Ephesians in the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. We all know about that. Well, Alexander the Greek, he took towns like Sardis. He took Ephesus. He took Miletus. to Alexander's conquest. Miletus was the traditional birthplace of Hellenic philosophy. Hellenic philosophy is Greek philosophy. Greek philosophy, Greek ideals, Greek ideologies. That's what it's about. It says, what was that? Miletus was the traditional birthplace of Hellenic philosophy. Sardis and Ephesus would play significant roles in the New Testament church. So we're gonna jump down. We're gonna jump down. Page 156. It says during 332 BC, Alexander swept through Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. He captured the Phoenician naval base of Tyre, once thought to be invulnerable to attack from land. I'm going to jump down. It says, as a result, Alexander's conquest, the center of Western civilization, was shifting culturally and economically. Why? Because they were spreading Hellenic culture. They were spreading Hellenic philosophy, Greek culture and Greek philosophy. It says, Alexandria replaced the cities of Greece as the focus of Greek intellectual and artistic life. In 331 BC, Alexander resumed his eastward march, and this was perhaps the most significant period in his career. He crossed the Syrian desert to confront the Persians in one final epic battle. This battle had been given two names, Arbela or Gargamella, on the open plains. So Arbela or Gargamella means on the open plains. On the open plains, Darius III faced Alexander with the remainder of his armies in a line of battle elephants. Alexander's troops were at first startled by the appearance of the beast, but not startled enough for this to be of help to Darius III. The Persian king was killed by his own troops as he attempted to flee from the battle. The tactics of the phalanx and cavalry again carried the day, and the Macedonians achieved a signal victory. After the battle, Alexander was crowned king of Asia. Thus, the crusade for Hellenic vengeance, Greek vengeance. Remember we read earlier in Daniel that the goat ran towards the ram in choler? Mm-hmm. Extreme hatred. Didn't we read that earlier? Yeah, they're telling you that right here. That choler, that extreme anger, that extreme hatred was Hellenic vengeance. Greek vengeance. That's what it was. It says, I'm going to read it again. Thus the crusade for Hellenic vengeance was accomplished. The Persian Empire was soundly defeated. Alexander and the Orient. After Alexander defeated Darius III at the Battle of Arbela, he immediately captured the old Persian seats of power in Susa. Remember, Susa is Shushan, where Daniel was at by the river Ulai, where he saw this vision, the vision of the goat and the vision of the ram. When Alexander conquered, he immediately conquered Susa. He conquered Shushan. It says Babylon. He conquered Babylon as well, which later on, if you know, Alexander made ancient Babylon his capital because he said Babylon was beautiful, yo. It says, and Ecbatana. He took enough booty in the capture, enough treasure, riches, spoils. He took enough booty in the capture of Susa to finance all his later expeditions. So they had paper in Susa. They had paper in Shushan. They say he took enough money to finance all of the rest of his expeditions after that. After he spoiled Shushan. They had paper over there, man. Real talk. Go to Daniel 8 and 8 real quick.
The book of Daniel, chapter 8 and verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong.
The he-goat waxed very great. Greece became very great. Keep reading.
The great horn was broken.
And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. Alexander the Greek is that so-called, well, not so-called, it's in the Bible. Alexander the Greek was the great horn. But the Bible says he was broken, though, read.
And for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven.
And because the great horn was broken, four notable horns came up in his place out of the four winds of heaven. The four notable ones are making reference to Alexander the Greek's four main generals. Lysimachus, Ptolemy, Seleucus, and Cassander. These are his main ones. Matter of fact, because it did say he was broken off, read verse 21 real quick. Jump down to verse 21.
Verse 21.
And read through 22.
And the rough goat is the king of Greece.
Rough goat is the kingdom of Greece. Read.
And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
Alexander the Greek, the man who crowned king over the Hellenic Peninsula, the one who gained complete control over the Hellenic Peninsula. He represents the great horn. Keep reading.
Now that being broken.
Now that being broken. Now that he died. When he dies, read.
Whereas 4 stood up for it.
He said he saw 4 stand up for it. 4 other horns came up for the one great notable horn that was broken off. Keep reading.
Stood up for it. 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation. But not in his power.
But they wouldn't have the power that Alexander the Greek had. Alexander the Greek was able to unite all of Greece, all of Helen, all of the Hellenic Peninsula. He was able to galvanize and gather the Caucasian race together, the Edomite nation together. Nobody else after Alexander the Greek was able to do that. Not even those 4 notable horns that came up after Alexander the Greek were able to accomplish that. That's why the Bible says they wouldn't reign in his power, but not in his power. I'm going to go back to this real quick. Page 157. Right here it says, here we go. Alexander returned to Ecbatana, then to his capital city of Babylon, where he began preparation for the conquest of Arabia and the organizing of his empire. Weakened by heavy drinking, he was unable to survive a bout with malaria. So they claim he had malaria. They claim he had malaria. I'm going to say allegedly. He died in 323 BC. The great horn was broken in 323 BC. Approximately around 323 BC at the age of 33. His body was placed in a beautiful tomb in Alexandria. Let's go over to 158. It says, the aftermath of Alexander's death. However, all was not well in the Hellenic Empire. The Hellenistic Empire. The Hellenistic Empire is the Greek Empire. When Alexander died, he left no successor. He had no children. It says, his son by Roxanne was not born until after his death. So his field marshals scrambled to claim the lands they had conquered. And he had 4 primary field marshals. 4 notable horns. Ptolemy, Seleucus, Cassander, and Lysimachus. These generals and their successors, primarily the Ptolemies of Egypt and the Seleucids of Syria. The Ptolemies of Egypt, just in case anybody ever want to read through Daniel 11, when you're reading about the king of the south and you're reading about the king of the north, the Ptolemies of Egypt are the kings of the south. His line represents the king of the south. And the Seleucid Empire of Syria, they represent the king of the north, Then it says, they warred among themselves until the Roman conquest began in 197 AD. These struggles had profound effects upon the Jews. Antiochus III of the Seleucid Empire died 187 BC. He was succeeded by his son Antiochus IV, also known as Antiochus Epiphanes, in 175 BC. Under his leadership, the Seleucid Empire carried out a thorough Hellenistic reconstruction of its subjected lands. Particularly affected by this new campaign were the Jews. When Antiochus Epiphanes, or Antiochus IV, inherited the Seleucid part of the Greek Empire in 175 BC, he had a burning passion to unite all his territory by spreading Hellenism throughout, meaning he wanted to spread Greek culture, Greek philosophy, and Greek ideals throughout the world, throughout all of the lands in which he controlled. That's what he wanted to do. Known as one of the cruelest tyrants of all time, talking about Antiochus IV, he was known as one of the cruelest tyrants of all time. He used harsh methods that stirred opposition, particularly in Jerusalem. The city's dwellers were caught between rivals and faithless priests who contended for leadership of the city. Antiochus smashed civil strifes, massacred thousands of people, and robbed the temple of his treasures. The governor that Antiochus left in charge of Jerusalem was also cruel. The people chafed under his control. Not a great deal of the history from the period following the 6th century BC may be found in the books included in the Protestant Bible canon. Of course, because the books that the Protestant Christians took the Apocrypha out of the Bible. So we don't expect them to find it in Protestant Bible canon. They took it out. What was it in the late,
Oh, you talking about when the Protestant church
they took it out when?
late
early 1700s.
Yeah, the 1700s. What's that? 1700s, 18th century. Yep, 18th century.
It says much of Jewish literature from this period has been classified as apocryphal or hidden. Hidden books rejected by reformers. The reformers are talking about Protestants. Those are the reformers. People like Protestants. Yeah, you can look it up. All right. Now I'm going to read this part. Let me know when you got it. I'm going to jump over. It says, Antiochus IV returned to Jerusalem in 168 BC and destroyed the city, killing most of the men and selling the women and children into slavery. Only a few men escaped into the hills under the leadership of a priest named Mattathias Hasmon. So we just read about Alexander the Greek. We just read about Antiochus IV. Antiochus IV, in case somebody missed it, he came out of the Seleucid Empire. The Seleucid Empire. He's of the seed of Seleucus. You got it?
I got a lot. I got a lot now. I'm just giving you some sources. This is coming off Wikipedia. You know, people
somebody gonna get mad at you.
I know. It says the biblical apocrypha denote the collection of apocrypha ancient books thought to have been written sometime between 200 BC, 400 AD. Most Christian churches include some of all the same texts of the body division of the Old Testament. Okay, so when was it taken out? They show you that was a part of it, but when was it taken out? All right, this don't say much. That's crazy. Wikipedia don't have it.
Don't even worry about it. Let's move on.
I got this right here. It says that the 15 books of the Bible that was removed by the Protestant church in the 1800s.
1800s?
1800s.
All praises. All praises. Get Daniel 8 and 9.
17th century then. Not 18th century. 17th century.
Get Daniel 8 and 9.
The book of Daniel. Chapter 8 and verse 9.
Matter of fact, start at 8 again.
Alright. The book of Daniel chapter...
Yeah, 8 and 8.
Alright. The book of Daniel chapter 8 and verse 8.
Bring it up.
Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great.
The he-goat is making reference to Greece, the kingdom of Greece. Read.
And when he was strong.
And when the kingdom of Greece was strong. Read.
The great horn was broken.
The great horn represents Alexander the Greek. He died, supposedly, allegedly, air quotes, of malaria. Can you read?
And for it came up 4 notable ones.
And when he died, 4 notable ones came up to replace him. His 4 generals, his main generals, which included Ptolemy and Seleucus. Keep reading.
Towards the 4 winds of heaven.
Keep reading.
And out of one of them.
And out of one of them, out of one of the 4 notable ones that came up towards the winds of the heavens, the 4 winds of the heavens, out of one of them, read.
Came forth a little horn.
Came forth a little horn. This little horn is Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus IV. He's the little horn. And which one did he come out of? He came out of Seleucus. He came out of the Seleucid Empire. Keep reading, priest.
Which waxed exceedingly great.
He became exceedingly great. He became great. Read.
Towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land.
He became great toward the south, the east, and toward the pleasant land. The pleasant land is Jerusalem. That's the pleasant land. The Jerusalem is the present land. And then it said, but anyway, keep, matter of fact, oh, no, then we ain't finished that, though. Keep reading.
Verse 10. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven.
And it waxed great, this little horn, Antiochus Epiphanes. He waxed great, even to the host of heaven. Read.
And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground. And stamped upon them.
And stamped upon them. Let's deal with the stars real quick. Give me Revelation 12. Let's deal with the stars. Let's talk about that real quick. What are the stars? Revelation 12. Let's start at verse 1.
The book of Revelation, chapter 12, and start at verse 1.
Now, this is a similitude right here. This is a similitude. Read that real quick.
The book of Revelation, chapter 12, starting at verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
What is this woman right here? Give me Isaiah 54 real quick. Isaiah 54. We're going to come back to this in a minute. Isaiah 54, and I want to start at verse 5.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 54, starting at verse 5. For thy maker is thy husband. The Lord of hosts is his name.
Read.
And thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel.
Uh-huh.
The God of the whole earth shall he be called.
Read.
For the woman have called...
Read again.
Oh, excuse me. For the Lord have called thee...
For the Lord has called thee. He's talking about Israel. The Lord has called thee what?
For the Lord has called thee as a woman...
The Lord has called thee as a woman. The Lord called the nation of Israel as a woman. Read.
Forsaken and grieved in spirit.
Uh-huh.
And a wife of youth.
And a wife of youth. Keep reading.
When thou wast refused, saith thy God.
Give me Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 2. Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 2. Israel has been called a woman.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 6, starting at verse 2. I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman.
Go back to Revelations 12 and 1. The daughter of Zion. Zion, the nation of Israel, has been likened or compared to a comely and delicate woman, yo. That's the similitude. Read that real quick.
The book of Revelation, chapter 12 and verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun.
This woman right here is that comely and delicate woman, Zion. And she's clothed with the sun. Read.
And the moon.
And the moon. Read.
Under her feet.
She has the sun and the moon at her feet. Read.
And upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
And upon her head a crown of 12 stars. The 12 stars represent the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 stars represents the 12 tribes of Zion. Let's go to the book of Genesis. Excuse me, give me Genesis chapter 37. Let's talk about Joseph real quick. Joseph had two dreams here. Two dreams. But we're going to deal with the second dream. But let's start at verse 5.
The book of Joseph. So like the book of Genesis, chapter 37 and verse 5. And Joseph dreamed a dream. And he told it his brethren. And they hated him yet the more.
So Joseph dreamed a dream. He dreamed two dreams. The first dream he dreamed was the dream about the sheaf. The first dream is the dream of the sheaf. But we're going to read the second dream. Jump down to verse 9.
Verse 9. And he dreamed yet another dream.
So he dreamed a second dream, another dream. Read.
And told it his brothers.
Uh-huh.
And said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more.
Read.
And behold, the sun.
The sun.
And the moon.
And the moon. Read.
And the 11 stars made obeisance to me.
The sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me. That's what Joseph said, yo. Keep reading.
And he told it to his father and to his brothers. And his father rebuked him.
His father Jacob rebuked him. He rebuked Joseph for telling him about that dream. Keep reading.
And said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed?
Read.
Shall I and thy
mother? Jacob in the dream was represented by the sun. His mother was represented by the moon. Keep reading.
Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren?
And thy who?
And thy brethren.
And his brethren. They were represented in that dream by the stars, yo. By the stars. Keep reading.
Indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee.
Shall we come down to bow down ourselves to thee, read?
To the earth.
To the earth. Are we going to make obeisance to you? Like you saw the sun, the moon, and the stars do? The stars represent the nation of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel. Let's go back to Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8 and verse 10.
The book of Daniel chapter 8 starting at verse 10. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven.
Talking about this little horn, which represents or which is symbolic for Antiochus IV. Read it again.
Verse 10. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven.
Read.
And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars of the ground.
And cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground. The host of heaven, which are the stars, is talking about the nation of Israel, yo. He cast some of us down to the ground. Read.
And stamped upon them.
And he stamped upon us, yo. He cast us down into the ground, which means they subjugated us. They oppressed us. They enslaved us. They murdered us. They killed us. That's what it means to cast us down to the ground. And they stamped upon us. Keep reading.
Verse 11. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host.
This man magnified himself even to the prince of the host, yo. Even to the prince of the host. Matter of fact, hold that. Stay in the same chapter. Jump down to verse 23.
Verse 23 of the same chapter. And in the latter time of their kingdom.
In the latter time of their kingdom. Their kingdom is talking about the kingdom of the Greeks. In the latter time of their kingdom. Keep reading.
When the transgressors are come to full a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up.
Shall stand up. This king is Antiochus the Fourth. Keep reading.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power.
But not by his own power. Read.
Not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper.
He shall destroy wonderfully, and he's going to be prosperous. Keep reading.
And practice, and shall destroy.
And he's going to practice. You know what they practice? Hellenic culture. Greek philosophies. Greek ideals. That's what they practice, yo. They call it Hellenism. That's what they practice. Keep reading.
And shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
And he shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. The mighty and the holy people, that's the host of heaven. The stars of God. Keep reading, priest. Verse 25.
Verse 25. Sorry about that.
No, you good, brethren.
And though his policies also shall cause craft to prosper in his hands.
Keep reading.
And he shall magnify himself in his heart. And by peace shall destroy many.
And by peace he shall destroy many. Because they put forth a false sense of peace. Keep reading.
He shall also stand up against the prince of princes.
This man also shall stand up against the prince of princes. Read.
But he shall be broken without hands.
But he's going to be broken without hands, yo. And I don't know if anybody, brothers are familiar with how Antiochus died in the Bible. You know what I mean? But Lord's will, hey, remind me we can get that story to close out about how Antiochus died. Because I didn't even put it in the lesson. Let's go back to verse 11.
The book of Daniel chapter 8 and verse 11. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of hosts.
The prince of hosts is the prince of princes, yo. He magnified himself even to the prince of hosts, to the prince of princes. Read.
And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away.
And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away. Yo, read.
And the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
And the place of his sanctuary was cast down, yo. Cast down. So it was prophesied by Daniel that the little horn, Antiochus the Fourth, will take away the daily sacrifice and cast down the sanctuary. Hold this. Let's talk about the daily sacrifice. Give me Exodus 29. Let's get the law about the daily sacrifice real quick. Exodus 29, and let's start at 35. Let's talk about the daily sacrifices.
Exodus 29 and verse 35. And thus shalt thou do unto Aaron and to his sons according to all things which I have commanded thee.
Read.
7 days shall thou consecrate them.
7 days you are to consecrate them. Keep reading.
And thou shalt offer every day a bullock for a sin offering.
He said, and thou shalt offer every day a bullock for a sin offering. Keep reading.
For atonement, and thou shalt cleanse the altar.
You offer the bullock every day for a sin offering, for an atonement. Then you cleanse the altar. Read.
When thou hast made an atonement for it, and thou shalt anoint it to sanctify it.
Then you anoint the altar so you can sanctify it. Keep reading.
7 days thou shalt make an atonement for the altar.
So alongside this bullock that we have to sacrifice every day for a sin offering, for atonement, we also have to every day, which is 7 days, make an atonement for the altar. Keep reading.
And sanctified it, and it shall be an altar most holy. Whatsoever toucheth the altar shall be holy.
Keep reading.
Now this is that which thou shalt offer upon the altar.
Now we about to find out what we are to offer upon the altar every day. Keep reading.
2 lambs of the first year.
We are to offer 2 lambs of the first year. Read.
Day by day.
Day by day. Read.
Continually.
Continually. Perpetually. In perpetuity. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Keep reading.
The 1 lamb. Excuse me. Yep. No, verse 40, right? Yep, verse 40.
No, 39.
39. Just make sure. Yep, 39. And the 1 lamb thou shalt offer in the morning.
So 1 lamb you offer in the morning. Read.
And the other lamb thou shalt offer at evening.
And the other lamb you offer at evening, meaning at night. At night. Is that the end of that?
End of 39, yes sir.
All praises. Let's go back to the book of Daniel 8 and verse 12 again. Or Salakia, Daniel 8 and 12. We haven't read 12 yet.
The book of Daniel, chapter 8 and verse 12. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice.
A host is an army. An army was given to the little horn, Antiochus, against the daily sacrifice. The daily sacrifice, the sacrifice like the bullock for sin offering to make atonement, or the daily sacrifices of the 2 lambs that we offered to sanctify the altar, cleanse the altar, make atonement for the altar. They took that daily sacrifice away, yo. Keep reading.
By reason of transgression.
Because of our transgression, because of sin. Read.
And cast it down the truth to the ground. And it practiced and prospered.
And it practiced and it prospered. Keep reading.
Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto the certain saints which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgressions of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot?
Keep reading.
And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days.
Until 2,300 days. Read.
Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
Then would the sanctuary be cleansed. Let's go to Daniel 11. Daniel chapter 11 and verse 1.
The book of Daniel, chapter 11, starting at verse 1. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him.
Now, let's see who this Darius the Mede is. Go to Daniel 9 and 1. Who is Darius the Mede?
The book of Daniel, chapter 9 and verse 1. And in the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes.
Of the seed of the Medes. He was of the Medes. Keep reading.
Which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans.
This Darius the Mede was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. This is the same one we read about earlier in the class. Let's go back to Daniel 5. Daniel 5 and verse 31. This is the same Darius the Mede that we read about earlier in the class. The same Darius who took the kingdom from Belshazzar, the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel 5 and 31.
The book of Daniel, chapter 5, and starting at verse 31. And Darius the Mede.
And Darius the Mede, the son of Ahasuerus. Read.
Darius the Median took the kingdom.
He took the kingdom from Belshazzar. Read.
Being about 62 years old.
Being 62 years old. He was 62 years old when he took the kingdom of the Chaldeans from Belshazzar. Read chapter 6 and read verse 1.
The book of Daniel, chapter 6, starting at verse 1. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom.
Read.
And over these.
Over the 120 princes that would be over the whole kingdom. Keep reading.
And over these 3 presidents.
And over those princes, the 120 princes, Darius the Mede set up 3 presidents. 3 presidents to be over them. Keep reading.
Of whom Daniel was first.
And Daniel was first of the presidents. Meaning he was the head honcho. He was the man in charge. He was the first. He was the top guy, yo. Daniel was. Keep reading.
And over these 3 presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give account unto them, and the king shall have no damage.
Read.
Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes.
Yeah, he was the first. He was the first among the presidents. He was above the 120 princes that were set over the kingdom. He was preferred above all of them. Read.
And the king thought to set him over the whole realm.
And the king thought to set him over the whole realm. No, read verse 3 again.
I read it wrong. Because, start from the top.
Yeah.
Then this Daniel was president above the presidents.
Now read it one more time.
Oh, preferred, excuse me. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes.
Read.
Because an excellent spirit was in him.
There was an excellent spirit in him. Read.
And the king thought to set him over the whole realm.
Jump over to verse 28 for me. Verse 28.
Daniel 6 and verse 28. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius.
In the reign of Darius, this is he prospered in the reign of Darius. Darius the Mede. Darius the Mede. Keep reading.
The reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian.
And he prospered in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Let's go back to Daniel 11 and verse 1.
The book of Daniel, chapter 11, starting at verse 1. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen.
Now, we're dealing with an angel talking right here. This is not Daniel talking. This is an angel that is talking right here, yo. I don't know who this angel is. I'm going to say that right now. I don't know who the angel is, but I do know that people speculate that this angel could possibly be the angel Gabriel. But it's not stated here. So that's just somebody talking, because we can't prove it. But we know that this is an angel talking here. Hey, go over to chapter 10 and verse 1.
The book of Daniel, chapter 10, starting at verse 1. And in the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called
Belteshazzar.
And the thing was true, but the time appointed was long. And he understood the thing and had understanding of the vision.
So this is happening under Cyrus the Persian, or Cyrus the king of Persia. Jump down to 18. Y'all can read the whole chapter on your own. We just going to skip through.
Verse 18. Then there came again and touched me one like the appearance of a man.
Read.
And he strengthened me.
This is an angel. Can you read?
And said, O man, greatly beloved.
Daniel was that man that was greatly beloved. Read.
Fear not.
Uh-huh.
Peace be unto thee.
Read.
Be strong. Yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened. And said, Let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me.
Read.
Then said he, Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee?
Read.
And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia.
What the angel say?
Now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia.
The angel said, Now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. Read.
And when I am gone forth.
And when I'm gone forth to fight with the prince of Persia. Read.
Lo, the prince of Greece shall come.
He said, look, the prince of Greece shall come. Keep reading.
But I will show thee the which is noted in the scripture of truth. And there is none that holdeth with me in these things.
Read.
But Michael, your prince.
Talking about Michael, the archangel. Keep reading.
Chapter 11 and verse 1. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede.
This is that angel. He said, also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede. Read.
Even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth.
He said, now will I show you the truth. Read.
Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. And the fourth shall be far richer than they all.
He said, behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. After Cyrus the Persian, he said, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. And the fourth shall be far richer than they all. Far richer than all the kings of Persia that came before him. Keep reading.
And by his strength.
And by his strength, this fourth king that's going to reign over Persia, this fourth king that's going to be richer than all the other kings that came before him. The angel told Daniel, he said, by his strength, read.
through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece.
He shall stir up all against the Greeks. He shall stir up all against Greece. This man will be making war. This man will be making war against the Greeks. Keep reading.
Verse 3. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will.
And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. I'm going to go back to this book real quick. Page 139. Alright, I'm going to start right here. Page 139, under the Persians. It says, Daniel's last prophetic vision appeared in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia. Daniel 10:1, we read that. By this time, Daniel was too old to join the Jews returning to Palestine. So this Daniel, the king of, not Daniel, this Cyrus, the king of Persia, is actually making reference to Cyrus the Second. Cyrus the Second, the one that we read about earlier. It's making reference to him. It says, but by this time, Daniel was too old to join the Jews returning to Palestine. God revealed his glory to Daniel as Daniel sat on the bank of the river Tigris. God's messenger told Daniel of the future of the Persian Empire. Daniel's vision foretold that 3 kings after Cyrus would rule Persia: Cambyses, Pseudo-Samerdis, and Darius. These are the 3 kings that would come up and rule over Persia. These 3 kings: Cambyses, Pseudo-Samerdis, and Darius. This is Darius the Great. Darius the Great, quote unquote. Before a 4th, Xerxes. So the 4th king that will stand up and be richer than all the kings before him in Persia was Xerxes. And Xerxes was the one who stirred up all the realm of the Grecians. Straight up. It says before a 4th, Xerxes would spend his life fighting the Greeks. Xerxes made it his mission to fight the Greeks. Yo, that's his thing.
Kill the Edomites.
Damn Persian.
Kill the Edomites.
100 years later, the Persian Empire was taken by Alexander the Great. Remember we read in Daniel 11:3, and a mighty king shall stand up. That's going back into Alexander the Great. That's why it says 100 years later, the Persian Empire was taken by Alexander the Great. For the next century and a half, 2 divisions of Alexander's empire would fight on the soil of Palestine. I don't need to go into that part.
Back at you.
No, not yet. Hold up. I want to read the box. Page 139. Underlines and read the box. Okay, so let me just read the box real quick. Must be something here I want. 2 divisions of Alexander's empire would fight on the soil of Palestine. The Ptolemaic kingdom of Egypt, which is the king of the south, told y'all that earlier in the class, and Seleucid kingdom of Syria, which is the king of the north. Yo, I'm gonna jump down. It says, indeed, Palestine would be captured by the Seleucids around 2000 BC and ruled by them until the coming of Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus was to battle the Ptolemies of Egypt until Roman ships in Kittim demanded his withdrawal. So let's go from there. I'm done with that. Let's go back to the book of Daniel, chapter 11, and let's read verse 4.
Verse 4.
Matter of fact, let's read 3 again and read down.
Alright, verse 3. And a mighty king shall stand up.
Talking about Alexander the Greek. Read.
That shall rule with great dominion.
Uh-huh.
And do according to his will.
Read.
And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken.
And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken. Why? Because he died. He died allegedly and supposedly of malaria. And his kingdom was broken. It was divided. Read.
And shall be divided towards the 4 winds of heaven.
Yeah, divided toward the 4 winds of heaven. Divided among those 4 notable horns. Keep reading.
And not to his posterity.
And not to his posterity. Remember, Alexander didn't have children. We read earlier that his son was born after his death. Yeah. So this kingdom was not given to his posterity. It was not passed down to his children, to his sons. Read.
Nor according to his dominion which he ruled.
Nor according to his dominion which he ruled. Remember, the 4 notable horns wouldn't rule in the same power that Alexander had. Keep reading.
For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those.
Even for others beside those. So let's go from there. Let's get to the Maccabees. Let's start at 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1.
All right. And the Apocrypha, the first book of the Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip.
This is Alexander, the son of Philip. Read.
The Macedonian.
Son of Philip, the Macedonian. This is Philip the second. Philip the second. Keep reading.
Who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of Persia, and Medes.
Alexander smitten or killed, or defeated Darius, the king of the Persians and the Medes, during the battle of what they named either Arbela or Gargamella. Remember, we read that he defeated them in that battle. And then Darius tried to flee. Darius the third, he tried to dip, and his own people killed him. You know what I'm talking about? Keep reading.
The first over Greece.
He did what?
That he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
So Alexander reigned in the stead of his father, Philip II of Macedonia. He reigned in his stead as the first over Greece, the first king over Greece. Keep reading.
And made many wars, and won many strongholds.
Yeah, he made many wars. He won many strongholds. He won places like Susa. He won places like Ecbatana. He won places like Babylon. He was crowned king over Asia. They crowned him king over Asia. He won a lot of wars. He made a lot of wars and won a lot of wars. Keep reading.
And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth.
Read.
And went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him.
Nobody could speak against him. Read.
Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up.
Became prideful. Read.
And he gathered a mighty strong host.
He gathered a mighty strong host. Alexander gathered a mighty strong army. A host is an army. Keep reading.
And ruled over the countries and nations, and kings who became tributaries unto him.
The kings of the earth became tributaries unto him. Read.
And after these things, he fell sick.
And after these things, after he conquered and all these things, he fell sick. He supposedly had malaria. Allegedly, he had malaria. Keep reading.
And perceived that he should die.
He knew he was going to die. Keep reading.
Wherefore he called his servants, which as were honorable.
He said he called his servants such as were honorable. He had 4 notable servants. Lysimachus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. Those were his four notable servants. You want to say something, priest? All right.
Keep reading. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth.
Read.
And parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive.
He divided his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Read.
So Alexander reigned 12 years.
He reigned as the first king over Greece for 12 years. Read.
And then died.
And then died supposedly of malaria. Read.
Verse 8. And his servants bare rule everyone in his place. Verse 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves.
Read.
So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth.
You know, Greeks, white people like to say that Caucasian Greeks brought civilization and culture into the world. But that's not what the Bible says. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible says that Caucasian Greeks brought more evil into the world. They multiplied evil in an already evil world. That's crazy.
And it's so funny that we learn about these wicked people in our schools. So we learn about the evilness they commit in our little public school education. Because we all learn about Alexander the Great. The Greek.
The Greek. Bring it out. Bring it out. That's why I keep saying he allegedly and supposedly died of malaria. I done heard a couple other things about that Jake. You know what I'm talking about?
But, they scrubbed in on that Jake.
Straight up.
It's funny how you look for stuff you saw when like 5 years ago. There was a whole bunch of stuff in there. Now it seems like it's hard to see. It's hard to find them James now.
Yeah, they got them. Like you said, they scrubbing it. Yeah. They censoring a lot of that information because they don't want it out. They don't want it out. But hey, Lord's will, run across it. I'll run across it eventually, and when I do, I'm gonna go ahead and screenshot it.
I used to find African American came out so long ago this year, and now look it up. It's so hard to find when African American come out now. They making it harder and harder, man.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, pick up at verse 10, priest.
Verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root.
And there came out of them a wicked root. A wicked root came out of one of them. This wicked root came out of Seleucus. He came out of the Seleucian Empire. Read.
Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes.
This is Antiochus the Fourth, who was surnamed Epiphanes, which means God manifested on earth. Can you read?
Son of Antiochus the king.
He was the son of Antiochus the Third. We read about that earlier. Read.
Who had been an hostage at Rome.
Read.
And he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
And Antiochus the Fourth reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. The 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks is 175 BC. Let me say it again. The 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks is 175 BC. Keep reading, priest.
Verse 11. And in those
Matter
days...
of fact, hold on one second. Do I want that? Yeah, I do. We're going to read down to 32.
All right. And in those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathens that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Read.
So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king.
They went to the king, Antiochus. Read.
Who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathens.
Mm-hmm.
Whereupon they built a place of exercise.
They built a gymnasium. Read.
At Jerusalem
in the pleasant land. Read.
According to the customs of the heathen.
According to the custom of the heathen. The heathen being the Greek, the Caucasian. Read.
And made themselves uncircumcised.
And they made themselves uncircumcised. This isn't talking about no literal circumcision or uncircumcision. You can't literally make yourself uncircumcised. That's not how I go. This is talking about something else. Read it again.
And made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant.
This is how they made themselves uncircumcised. First and foremost, by forsaking the holy covenant. Read.
And joined themselves to the heathen.
And then joining themselves to the heathen. Read.
And were so to do mischief.
And doing mischief. That's how they made themselves uncircumcised. By forsaking the holy covenant. Joining themselves to the heathen, the Greek. And doing mischief. The mischief is the following of the ordinances and the customs of the heathen. That's what made them uncircumcised. That's what made them unclean. Read.
Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus.
Antiochus the Fourth, surnamed Antiochus Epiphanes. Read.
He thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have dominion of 2 realms.
He thought to reign over Egypt. Egypt was controlled at that time by the Ptolemaic dynasty. The Ptolemies. The Ptolemies. Keep reading.
Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude of chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy.
Read.
And made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him.
Ptolemy was afraid of Antiochus the Fourth. This is not the same Ptolemy that was with Alexander the Greek either. No, this is one of his descendants. This man was scared of Antiochus the Fourth. Keep reading.
And fled, and many were wounded to death.
Read.
Thus they got the strong city in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He returned again in the 143rd year.
He returned again in the 143rd year of the Greeks. Keep reading.
And went up against Israel.
And came up against Israel. Read.
And Jerusalem. With a great multitude.
With a great multitude. With a huge army, yo. With a host. Keep reading.
And they entered proudly into the sanctuary.
And they entered proudly into the sanctuary of the Lord, which is the temple. Read.
And took away the golden altar. And the candlestick of light.
They took away the golden altar. He took away the candlestick of light. Read.
And all the vessels thereof.
And he took away all the vessels thereof. Read.
And the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crowns, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off.
Read.
He took also the silver and the gold, and of the in the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre.
He killed a lot of men. Most of the men. Read.
And spoken very proudly.
And he was speaking very proudly, running his mouth. Read.
Therefore there was great mourning in Israel. And every place where they were, so that the princes and the elders mourned.
The princes mourned, the elders mourned. Read.
The virgins and young men were made feeble.
The virgins are the young women. The young women and the young men were made feeble. They were made weak. Read.
And the beauty of woman was changed.
And the beauty of the woman was changed, yo. It was changed from beauty to sadness. Read.
Every bridegroom took up lamentations, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness.
Yeah, she was in heaviness for loss of her husband. Keep reading.
The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion.
All of us were perplexed. Read.
And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collectors of tribute unto the city of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude.
He came to Jerusalem with a great multitude, with a great army. Read.
Excuse me.
Verse 30.
Verse 30. And spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city.
As soon as they gave him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, suddenly upon Jerusalem. Read.
And smote it very sore, and destroyed much people
and
of
killed
Israel.
many people of Israel, yo. Many men of Israel. Keep reading.
And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire.
He set Jerusalem on fire. Burn it. Read.
And pulled down the houses
pulled down our houses, pulled down the walls. Read.
Thereof on every side.
On every side of the city of Jerusalem. Read.
But the women.
Read.
And children.
And the children. See, they killed off the men. They killed majority of the men. But the women and the children, read. They took them as slaves. Keep reading.
And possessed the cattle.
And they took our cattle as well. Jump down to verse 37.
Verse 37. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary. And defiled it.
They shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary. And they defiled the sanctuary through that innocent bloodshed. Read.
And so much the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers.
He said, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers. Strangers came into our cities. Strangers began to inhabit the city. Keep reading.
And became strangers to those that were born in her.
And the city became strangers to those who were actually born in her, yo. Keep reading.
And became strange to those that were born in her. And her own children left her.
We had to leave. Read.
Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning. Her Sabbaths into reproach.
Her Sabbaths were turned into reproach. Read.
Her honor into contempt.
Read.
As had been glory, so was her dishonor increased. And her excellency was turned into mourning.
Read.
Moreover, King Antiochus
the fourth. Read.
Wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
This right here is Hellenic philosophy. This is Greek ideology right here. Under Greek ideals, all people are supposed to be one people. Under the Greeks. Keep reading, priest.
And everyone should leave his laws.
And everybody should leave their own laws. Keep reading.
So all the heathens agreed according to the commandments of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
Amen. Many of the heathens accepted the commandment of Antiochus. They accepted that ideal of all of us being just one group of people. They accepted the idea of leaving their own laws, their own culture, their own heritage, their own histories, their own practices, and adopting the ideals and customs and practices of the damn Greek. Let me say this and I got you. And even worse than the heathens doing it is, many of the Israelites consented to his religion as well, yeah. That's the worst part. Our people, many of us consented with Antiochus and the Hellenic ideologies or Greek philosophies. Go ahead, priest.
And now they trying to do it today. With the so-called Babylon the Great, known as America, they trying to push that one philosophy too, but they calling it coexist now.
Yep.
Under the one umbrella, coexist, where they say all religions can get together.
Got the cross, Christian cross up there, the Egyptian ankh on that drink.
Yeah, you see everything. The only thing you don't see is Satan. Nah, that's just another side. I just want to throw in there.
I might have seen a 5-pointed star on that joint. A pentagram. I might have seen one. Might have seen a pentagram, hexagram on that drink. They're lucky I can't remember right now for sure.
Yeah, but that would remind me of right here. They practice on the Hellenistic.
Yep.
America doing the same thing. That
Yep.
Hellenistic. Dang, that's what they call it. The Hellenistic is a Hellenistic view.
Yep, Hellenism.
Hellenism. Thank you, priest. All right, we started at verse 41.
No, we had 43.
43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath.
Made themselves uncircumcised. Keep reading.
Verse 44. For the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah.
Read.
That they shall follow the strange laws of the land. And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple. And that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days.
Read.
And pollute the sanctuary and holy people. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols. And sacrifice swine's flesh.
And sacrifice pig. Read.
And unclean beasts.
And other unclean beasts. Read.
That they shall also leave their children uncircumcised.
That they shall literally leave their sons uncircumcised. Read.
And make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
Where's it at? Profanation. Profanation. It's a lot.
Profanation.
Profanation is to be profaned or be defiled. Keep reading.
Profanation. To the end they might forget the law.
And that's the point. They wanted us to forget the law. Read.
And change all the ordinances.
And they want us to change all of the ordinances. They wanted us to change the ordinances of the Sabbath day to the ordinances of the white man's high holy days, or holidays. And now, look, Negroes do that because December 25th is right around the corner, and Negroes going to run straight to that ordinance. Straight to that white man custom, that Edomite custom. They're going to run straight to that thing. Really, it's a Babylonian custom, but Caucasians stole it from Babylonians. So today, I'm going to call it a Caucasian custom. Because today they got white Santa, red Santa, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, bunch of little ugly, little dirty Caucasian elves. That's what they have today. That was a side note. I ain't even mean to say that. Where we at,
verse? I'm going to start at 45 again.
No. Start at
because we was
50.
at 50?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. You sure?
Yep.
Profanation. To the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandments of the king, he said he should die.
He said he shall die. He should die. Read.
Verse 51. And in the self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the city of Judah to sacrifice, city by city.
He commanded the city of Judah to sacrifice. Remember, they wanted us to sacrifice swine's flesh and all manner of unclean beasts. They wanted us to do that in Judah, city by city. Read.
Verse 52. Then many other people will gather unto them, to wit, everyone that forsake the law.
Everyone that forsook the law. These ungodly men. Read.
And so they committed evils in the land.
They committed evils in the land, yo. By sacrificing swine's flesh and flesh of unclean beasts. Read.
And drove the Israelites into secret places.
We had to go out and hide. And all the Israelites that believed had to go to hide. Read.
Even wheresoever they could flee for succor.
Where they could flee for comfort. Read.
Now the 15th day of the month, Caselu, In the 145th year.
The month Casselu, also known as Chaselu, is the 9th month of the year. The month Casselu, also known as Chaselu, is the 9th month of the year. Keep reading.
In the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar.
They set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar. Upon the altar, they set up an idol or a statue of Zeus. Upon the altar. Keep reading.
And build idols, altars throughout the city of Judah on every side.
And he built idol altars all throughout the cities of Judah, on every side. Keep reading.
And burnt incense at the doors of their houses. And in the streets.
And they burnt incense at the doors of the houses in the streets for their gods, for the idols. Jump down to 59.
Verse 59. Now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God.
So on the 25th day of the month Casselu, which is the 9th month of the year, the Greeks, the heathen, did sacrifice upon the idol altar. And the idol altar was upon the altar of God. That same altar of God that we performed daily sacrifices on. That daily sacrifice with the bullock for a sin offering, for an atonement. Or that daily sacrifice of 2 lambs in the first year without blemish. A sacrifice of one in the morning and another in the evening, continually. They set up their idol on that altar, and they sacrificed on that altar to defile that altar. And they did it in the 9th month. They did it on the 25th day of the 9th month, Let's jump down to
verse 3.
Chapter 2 and verse 1.
All right, chapter 2 and verse 1. The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 2 and verse 1. And in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John.
This is Mattathias Hasmon. Keep reading.
The son of Simon, a priest of the son of Joarib from Jerusalem, and went in Modin.
This was a man of Levi. This is a Levite brother. Keep reading.
And dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons. Jonathan. Johanan, called Caddis. Simon, called Daces.
Hey, if you need a break, let me know.
No, they're called Daces, right? Daci. Judas, who was called Maccabeus.
This is Judas Maccabeus right here. Read.
Eleazar, called Alvaran.
Uh-huh.
And Jonathan, whose surname was
Apis.
Thank you, priest. And when he saw the blasphemy that were committed in Judah.
When Mattathias saw all the blasphemies that was committed in Judah, read.
And Judah and Jerusalem.
And in Jerusalem, read.
He said, Woe is me. Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hands of the enemies, in the sanctuary into the hands of strangers.
And our sanctuary was delivered into the hand of strangers. Read.
Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets.
They were killing our infants in the streets. Read.
Her young men with the sword of the enemy.
The young men were being killed with the sword of the white man. Read.
What nation have not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoil?
That question is rhetorical. That question is rhetorical, and the answer is there is no nation that has not taken part in our destruction. There's no nation that has not gotten of our spoils. That question is rhetorical. Keep reading.
All her ornaments are taken away.
All the gold, all the silver, all the ornaments have been taken away. Read.
Of a free woman, she is become a bond slave.
She was at first free, but now she's subjugated. Now she's in bondage. Now she's in slavery. Keep reading.
Verse 12. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it.
And the Gentiles have profaned it. This white man, this Greek, Caucasian, that's a Gentile. Edom are Gentiles. Keep reading.
To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn very sore. In the meanwhile, the king officers such as compelled the people to revolt, and came in the city of Modin.
They came into the city of Modin. Remember, this is the same city in which Mattathias lived. Modin, keep reading.
To make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers, and said to Mattathias, on this wise, thou art a ruler, and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Now therefore come thou first.
They said, now you make sure you come up here first. You just said this man's a great man. You're going to try to talk to him like he's some little ass, like he's a little boy. Now you come here first, boy. That's crazy. Keep reading.
And fulfilled the king's commandment like as all the heathens have done.
You come here, boy, and fulfill the king's commandment like all the heathens did.
Yea, and the men of Judah also.
Not only did the heathens fulfill the king's commandment, turn around and look. Your peoples did too. The men of Judah, they did too. Read.
And such as remain at Jerusalem, so shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends.
He said, you do this, you and your house, meaning you, your wife, and your children. Y'all going to be numbered amongst the king's friends. Antiochus going to be like, this is my friend. Read.
And thy children shall be honored with silver and gold, and many rewards.
He said, then you and your children, y'all going to get silver, y'all going to get gold, y'all going to get many rewards, yo. Oscars, Emmys, and Golden Globes.
Oscars, Emmys, and Golden Globes.
Keep reading, priest.
Are you talking about them trophies?
Them trophies. You know, I'm talking about rewards.
Everybody gets a participation trophy. You get a reward.
Hey, that's exactly what it sounded like the Caucasian was saying. You gonna get a reward for participating. This is a participation reward. Reward for participating. That's crazy.
Verse 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's domain obey him, and fall away even one from the religion of their fathers.
Everyone from the religion of their fathers. Read.
And give consent to his commandments. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. That reminds me of Joshua when he says, yet me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. That's exactly what Mattathias was saying right there. Keep reading.
God forbid that we should forsake the law and ordinances.
God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. The law and the ordinances of God, that's the religion of the Israelites. That's the religion of the 12 tribes of Zion. Keep reading.
We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion.
To go from our religion. Our religion is God's laws. Our religions are God's ordinances. Read.
Either on the right hand or the left.
Whether it be to the right or whether it be to the left. Keep reading.
Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews.
Here come a Negro. Here comes a nigga. Read.
In the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin.
That's why I said, here comes a Negro. Here comes a nigga.
Mattathias
just gave the good spill, going hard. Negro said, I do it, master. Master, I sacrifice, master. I sacrifice here in Modin, master. Keep reading.
According to the king's commandment.
Master, I'm going to do according to the king's commandment. Read.
Which thing when Mattathias saw.
When Mattathias saw this coon. When he saw this coon, this pickaninny right here. This Negro, read.
Or traitor. He was inflamed with zeal.
He was pissed. He was angry. He was heated. But his anger was according to God, though. Keep reading.
He was inflamed with zeal, and his rein trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment.
Mattathias couldn't even hold himself back. Yo, keep reading.
Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
He slew that Negro upon the altar. That yes, massa Negro. He killed him upon the altar. Read.
Also the king's commission.
He killed the king's commissioner too. Read.
Who compelled men to sacrifice.
Who compelled men to sacrifice swine's flesh, flesh of unclean beasts. Read.
He killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down.
So Mattathias killed the coon Negro, killed the commissioner, and pulled down that unclean, defiled altar at the same damn time. Yo, read.
Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phineas did unto Zambri, the son of Salon.
So Mattathias, he dealt zealously like Phineas did. You remember when Phineas ran in through that tent, put that spear through another coon, cut through another coon, and his unclean, dirty Moabite wife. Straight up. Keep reading.
And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying,
Saying what?
Whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me.
Read.
So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city.
They had to. They had to flee and they had to leave everything behind. Yo, read.
Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness.
But many of the Israelites that kept the covenant of their fathers, many of them that sought after justice, many of them that sought after judgment, they went down into the wilderness. Read.
Went down into the wilderness to dwell.
They went down in the wilderness to dwell there with Mattathias and all the other men that were zealous of the law of God. Keep reading.
To dwell there, both they and their children.
They went down there with themselves and their children. They took themselves down there and went with their children. Read.
And their wives.
And brought their women. Read.
And their cattle.
And they brought their cattle. Read.
Because affliction increased sore upon them.
Because infliction increased sore upon us from the Greeks. Jump down to 42.
Verse 42. Then came there unto him a company of
Assyrians,
who were mighty men of Israel.
Read.
Even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Also, all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them.
So all the Israelites that fled from Greek persecution joined themselves to Mattathias and all the brothers that were zealous for the law. Keep reading.
And were a stay unto them.
Read.
So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger.
So they joined forces and went out to kill and fight against sinful men. Read.
And wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathens for succor.
They fled to the white man for comfort, for safety. They ran to the white man for protection. Keep reading.
Then Mattathias and his friends went around about and pulled down the altar.
So Mattathias, gotta love Mattathias. Mattathias took everybody around Jerusalem, started pulling down all those idol altars, yo. All the altars to those false gods. Read.
And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised.
And whatever children they found in the coast of Israel uncircumcised in the flesh. Keep reading.
Those they circumcised valiantly.
They circumcised them valiantly. Keep reading.
They pursued. They pursued. Excuse me.
You want a break? You
No,
want to take a break?
I'm
You go ahead and take a break. I'm gonna pick up for a minute. You take a break. I'm gonna pick up for a minute. Verse 47. It said they pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hands. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Now, when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, Now have pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction, and the wrath of indignation. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation? And it was imputed unto him for righteousness. Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. Phineas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Jesus, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. This Jesus is talking about Joshua. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. This Elias is Elijah. Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael, by believing, were saved out of the flame. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. You gotta love that. Mattathias exhorted his sons. But he exhorted his sons by going through the history of his people.
Their forefathers.
He exhorted his sons exactly by going through the history of the patriarchs. Going through the history of mighty men. Mighty men that were mighty in faith and mighty standing for the nation, yo. That's how he exhorted his sons. And that's how we got to exhort our sons, too. We got to exhort each other like that. That's another reason why it's so important to read history. You got to read this history and know what your forefathers did, so that you can take their stories and you can tell it to the next man who's a little weak or a little nervous or a little afraid or a little scared at that time. You got to take what Mattathias is doing right here, and we all got to apply that. Not just y'all, but we all got to apply it. I, priest, all of us got to apply that, Jay. Yep. Verse 61. And thus consider ye throughout all ages, that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. Today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he returned into his dust. You know, from the dust you come, to the dust you return. You know, some people say you made out of water, but that's a whole other story. It says, and his thought is come to nothing. Wherefore ye, my sons, be valiant, and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law, for by it shall ye obtain mercy. Yo, this shows you about what manhood is too. You want to know what manhood is? Manhood is the keeping of God's laws. The keeping of God's laws, statutes, and commandments. That's what makes you a man. Not what the white man says, and not what your woman say. The keeping of the laws, statutes, and commandments of God is what makes you a man, yo. Verse 65. And behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. Mattathias is about to set up order. He says, he shall be a father unto you. As for Judas Maccabeus, he hath been mighty and strong, even from his youth up. Let him be your captain, and fight the battle of the people. Take also unto you all those that observe the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen. Take heed to the commandment of the law. So he blessed him, and was gathered to his fathers. And he died in the 140 and 60th year, the 140 and 60th year of the Greeks. And his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his fathers at Modin, and all Israel made great lamentation for him. Chapter 3 verse 1. Then his son Judas, called Maccabeus, rose up in his stead, and all his brethren helped him. And so did all they that held with his father. And they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So he gat his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, talking about Judas Maccabeus, and girt his warlike harness about him. And he made battles, protecting the host with the sword. In his act he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp, roaring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked, and sought them out, and burned up those that vexed his people. He said he pursued the wicked, sought them out, and burned up everybody that vexed his people. He set white people on fire. He was setting Greeks on fire. Edomites on fire. Let me say it like that. He was setting Edomites on fire. Let's jump over to verse 27. It says, now when Antiochus heard these things, when Antiochus heard all these things about Judas Maccabeus, yo, when he heard about the great honor, when he heard about that man put on a breastplate like a giant and gird his warlike harness, yo, when he heard how Judas Maccabeus and them brothers pursued the wicked and sought them out and burned up those that vexed them, when Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army. He opened also his treasure and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he should need them. Nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasure failed, and that the tributes in the country were small because of the dissension of the plague, which he had brought upon the land in taking away the laws which had been of old time, he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor to have such gifts to give so liberally as he did before. For he had abounded above the kings that were before him. He's supposed to be on a budget, but he's balling over it. You know what I'm talking about? What the hell? What's that?
31. I got you.
Come on, verse 31. Now, I'm going to finish the chapter out. You grab the next chapter for me. Yeah, the water. Verse 31. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, to be perplexed is to be confused, he determined to go into Persia, there to take the tributes of the countries, and to gather much money. So he left Lysias, a nobleman, and one of the royal blood, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Euphrates unto the borders of Egypt, and to bring up his son Antiochus the fifth, until he came again. Moreover, he delivered unto him the half of his forces, and the elephants, and gave him charge of all things that he would have done, as also concerning them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem, to wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and to take away their memorial from that place, and that he should place strangers in all their quarters, and divide their land by lot. So the king took half of the forces that remained, and departed from Antioch, his royal city, the 147th year, the 147th year of the Greeks. And having passed the river Euphrates, he went through the high countries. Then Lysias chose Ptolemy, son of Dormenes, and Nicanor, and Gorgias, mighty men of the king's friends. And with them he sent 40,000 footmen, 7,000 horsemen, to go into the land of Judah and to destroy it, as the king had commanded. We'll keep reading. Verse 40. So they went forth with all their power, and came and pitched by Emos in the plain country. And the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much, with servants, and came into the camp to buy of the children of Israel for slaves. A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. Keep reading. Now, when Judas and his brethren saw the miseries multiplied, let me read again. Now, when Judas and his brethren saw that miseries were multiplied, and that the forces did encamp themselves in their borders, for they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and utterly abolish them, they said one to another, let us restore the decayed estate of our people, and let us fight for our people in the sanctuary. Then was the congregation gathered together, that they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. Let's jump down to verse 46. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together, and came to Mashpah, over against Jerusalem. For in Mashpah was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day, and put on sackcloth, and cast ashes upon their heads, and rent their clothes, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen, the Greeks, white people, had sought to paint the likeness of their images. They brought also the priest's garments, and the first fruits, and the tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. Then cried they with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, what shall we do with these? And whither shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden down, and profaned, and thy priests are in heaviness, and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us, to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them? Except thou, O God, be our help. Then sounded they with trumpets, and cried with a loud voice. And after this, Judas ordained captains over the people, even captains over thousands, over hundreds, and over 50s, and over 10s. But as for such as were building houses, or had betrothed wives, or were planting vineyards, or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return, and every man to his own house according to the law. Before we continue, get the law real quick. Deuteronomy 20. Let's read that law real fast. Deuteronomy 20. Let's start at 5. And let's read down to verse 8.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 20, starting at verse 5. And the officers...
Salakia. 27 and 5. Salakia, priest. Deuteronomy 27 and 5.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 27 and verse 5.
Salakia, I was right. 20 and 5. I wrote it down wrong. I don't know. Ain't that a blip? Ain't that a blip? That's one of those, like the bishop be saying, that's one of those late writings.
Hey, we ain't got no light on.
And the crazy part about it is I did have light, because I had the light for the computer. That's the crazy part about it. Hey, bring it out, verse.
All right, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 20 and verse 5. And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, what man is there that have built a new house, and have not dedicated? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man dedicate.
So if a man has just built a new house, it hasn't been dedicated, he don't go into battle. Because he might die in battle, and then another man has his property, his house. Keep reading.
And what man is he that have planted a vineyard, and have not yet eaten of it? Let him also go and return unto his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man eat of it.
Same thing for a man that's planting a vineyard. if this is the first vineyard you ever planted, you should be able to eat of the vineyard before you go out to war. Because you might go out to war and not come back. You might die in battle. Keep reading.
And what man is there that have betrothed a wife?
It's the same thing with a man that betroths a wife. Read.
And have not taken her.
Meaning he hasn't laid down with her. He hasn't had sex with this woman. He hasn't had sex with his wife. Keep reading.
Let him go and return to his house.
The law says go back home. Read.
Lest he die in the
Lest
battle.
you die in the battle. Read.
And another man take her.
And another man gets to have sex with her. You never got to have sex with her. You never got to sow your seed in that woman so you can have a baby with her. You go to war and then die, and then here come another nigga. He get to lay down with that woman and sow his seed in her.
In your house.
In your house.
Your vineyard.
Your vineyard. I like how you put that. In your house, your vineyard, your woman. You dead. You dead.
Hey, that's why he wrote that. That's why he wrote that scripture. Thou shalt not covet.
Cause thou shalt. Bring that out, man. What verse we in?
Verse 8.
Keep reading.
Verse 8. And the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, what man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go return unto his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart.
So all those that are fearful, go back home.
Yeah.
Because your fear can be infectious.
Yeah.
Your fear could affect everybody.
Man.
Next thing you know, you scared.
Everybody's scared.
Dude to the right scared. Nigga to the left now scared. Dude in the front shook. Dude in the back is shaking as well. Take your scary ass home. That's what the law says. The law says you scared, take your scary ass to the house, man. Keep reading, yo.
You can do other things.
Exactly.
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know either. I was going to say something, but I don't want to do it. Because this is going to be online. You know? I was going to say something.
Alright, verse 9. And it shall be, when the officer have made an end of the speaking unto the people, that they shall make captains of the army to lead the people.
The same way the same way Judas Maccabeus did. He made captains over the army to lead the people. Captains over the thousands, captains over hundreds, captains over 50s, captains over 10s. Mattathias kept this law. I'm going to go back to 1 Maccabees 4 and verse 57. It says, so the camp removed and pitched upon the south side of Emas. And Judas said, arm yourselves and be valiant men, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary. For it is better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamities of our people and our sanctuary. Nevertheless, as the will of God is in heaven, so let him do. Let's go to chapter 4, and let's start at verse 1.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4 and verse 1. Then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camps by night, to the end he might rush in the camp of the Jews, and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guides. Now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the violent men with him, that he might smite the king's army was at Emas. While as yet the force was dispersed from the camp, in the mean season of Gorgias, by the night, into the camp of Judas.
Hey, I'm going to pick it up. I got it. It says, verse 5, it says, in the mean season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas. And when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains. For said he, these fellows flee from us. But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain. I love this story. Dude, he said he came there to look for him, yo. He couldn't find him. Not by night. He thought they were scared. Daylight came, Judas and his people just popped right up and make themselves visible. They showed themselves immediately right after that. You know what I'm talking about? What was that?
Verse 5. Towards the end, he sought them in the mountains.
Yep, these fellows flee from us. Verse 6. But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their mind. Damn. Showed himself with 3,000 men, no armor, no swords. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed round about with horsemen. And these were expert of war. Meaning these were real soldiers. These were people who went through boot camp. You know what I'm talking about? They had armor. They had swords. These were real men of war. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not the multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. You see, Judas is about to do the same thing to exalt the men that are with him that his father Mattathias did. Judas is about to go through some history, yo. He started off by talking about what happened with our fathers in the Red Sea in the time of the Exodus of Egypt. What happened with them and Pharaoh. I'm going to read it again. It says, remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea when Pharaoh pursued with an army. Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host from before our face this day, that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them, wherefore they went out of the camp to battle. But they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain. Howbeit, all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword, for they pursued them unto Gezerah, and unto the plains of Idumea, and Azotus, and Jamnia, so that there were slain of them upon a 3,000 men. This done, Judas returned again with the host from pursuing them, and said to the people, be not greedy of the spoils, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. And Gorgias and his hosts are here by us in the mountain. But stand ye now against our enemies, and overcome them, and after this ye may boldly take the spoils. And Judas was yet speaking, as Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out from the mountain, who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight, and were burning the tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done. When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid, and seeing also the host of Judas in the plain ready to fight, they fled every one into the land of strangers. Then Judas returned to spoil the tents, where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea and great riches. After this they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving, and praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth forever. Thus Israel had a great deliverance that day. We're going to jump down to verse 28. Verse 28. It says, and we're going to read down to 47. It says, the next year therefore following Lysias gathered together 70,000 choice men afoot, and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethsora. And Judas met them with 10,000 men. And when he saw that mighty army, he prayed and said, blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of mighty men by the hand of thy servant David, and gavest the host of strangers into the hand of Jonathan the son of Saul, and his armor-bearer. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. So they joined battle, and there were slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judas's soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he sent into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again into Judea. Then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomforted. Let us go up and cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Upon this all, the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Sion. And when they saw the sanctuary destitute, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the court as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes, and made great lamentation, and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets, and cried toward heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress, until he cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary, and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple, in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former. Let's read that law real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 27. Oh man, Deuteronomy 27. 4 through 6. Now I see why I had that there.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 27, verse 4. Therefore it shall be when ye be gone over Jordan, that ye shall set up these stones, which I command you this day, in the mount of Ebal, and thou shalt plaster them with plaster, and there shalt thou build an altar unto the Lord thy God.
And there thou shalt build an altar unto the Lord thy God. Read.
An altar of stones.
An altar of stones. Read.
Thou shalt not lift up any iron tools upon them.
And you can't make this altar using any iron tools. Read.
Thou shalt build the altar of the Lord thy God of whole stones.
That's what they did in the time of the Maccabees. They tore down the old altar, the altar that was defiled, and they rebuilt a new altar. They rebuilt that new altar out of whole stones. Keep reading. And the reason why they did that is because the law says, build the altar out of whole stones. Keep reading.
And thou shalt offer burnt offerings thereon unto the Lord thy God.
And thou shalt offer burnt offerings thereon. So let's go back to, I was in 4 in verse 47. I'm going to read it again. First Maccabees 4 and 47. Then they took the whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlesticks they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table, and spread out the veils, and furnished all the works which they had begun to make, or finished, Salakia, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now, on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Casselu. The month Casselu is the 9th month, in the 148th year, in the 148th year of the Greeks. They rose up betimes in the morning, and offered sacrifices according to the law, upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Look at what time and what day the heathen profaned the altar. Let's see if let's go back to get, because just in case somebody forgot, go back to 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and read verse 59.
The book of 1 Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 59. Now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God.
They did sacrifice upon the idol altar, and they did that on the 9th month, on the 25th day. We'll go back to the book of 1 Maccabees 4 and 54. It says, look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. The heathen profaned the altar of God in the 9th month on the 25th day. It says, even in that was it dedicated with songs, meaning the same day that the heathen defiled the altar is the same day that the altar was rededicated, that the new altar was dedicated back to the Lord, on that same exact day. It was dedicated with songs and cisterns and harps and cymbals, that all the people fell upon their faces worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who have given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication, is about the dedication of the altar. And we keep that thing 8 days, 8 days. And offer burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrifice the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields. And the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, with the whole congregation of Israel, ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Casselu, with mirth and with gladness. I heard the Israelites, a couple of Israelites say, you don't have to keep the Feast of Dedication. You don't have to keep the Feast of Dedication. And the reason why they say you don't have to keep the Feast of Dedication is because they say it's not found in the books of Moses. You can't find it in the Torah. You can't find it in Leviticus 23. That's why they say we don't have to keep the Feast of Dedication. We shouldn't keep the Feast of Dedication. But give me Matthew 18 real quick. Show you how that's a cap. Remember, we just read right here. Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season, meaning in the 9th month of the year, for 8 days. Give me Matthew 18:18.
The book of St. Matthew, chapter 18 and verse 18. Verily, I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bound on earth.
Whatsoever you shall bound on earth. Judas, his brethren, and the whole congregation of Israel got together and ordained and bound the Feast of Dedication to be kept in its year, in its season, by 8 days. And Christ said, what? Read this again.
Verily I say unto you, whatsoever time ye shall bound on earth shall be bound in heaven.
Whatsoever ye shall bind on earth is bound in heaven. The Feast of Dedication, the keeping of the Feast of Dedication, the dedication of the altar, was bound in earth. The keeping of that feast was bound in earth. It was ordained by Judas, his brethren, and the whole congregation of Israel, yeah? So if it was bound in earth, that means it's bound in heaven. Keep reading.
And whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loose in heaven.
Give me St. John chapter 10. St. John chapter 10. The Feast of Dedication was bound here in the earth, so it was bound in the heaven. That's why when you open up the Bible here in John 10, you read about Christ keeping that Feast of Dedication. Because that Feast of Dedication is an ordained feast. An ordained feast. Give me that real quick. 10 and 22.
The book of St. John chapter 10 and verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication.
And it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication. Read.
And it was winter.
And it was winter. Winter being the mean season. Keep reading.
And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch.
So Jesus the Christ was keeping the Feast of Dedication. Why? Because the Feast of Dedication was ordained by the nation of Israel. It was bound here on earth. So it's been bound up in the heaven, yo. We have to keep the Feast of Dedication. Don't let nobody tell you anything different. If they tell you anything different, it's a cap. They're lying to you. Give me the book of give me 2nd Maccabees. 2nd Maccabees. We're actually almost done. 2nd Maccabees chapter 10. And I want verse 5.
The book of 2nd Maccabees, chapter 10, starting at verse 5. Now upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple.
Upon the same day that the strangers profaned the temple. The strangers profaned the temple on the 9th month of the year, on the 25th day. Can you read?
On the very same day it was cleansed again.
On that very same day, the temple, the altar, it was cleansed again. Read.
Even the 5 and 25 days of the same month.
Even the 5 and 20th day of the same month, which is
Casalou.
Which is Casalou, which is the 9th month of the year. Go stay in 2nd Maccabees. We'll come back over here. Give me 2nd Maccabees chapter 1 in verse 9.
The book of 2nd Maccabees, chapter 1, starting at verse 9. And now, see that ye keep the Feast of Tabernacles in the month of Casalou.
See that you keep the Feast of Tabernacles in the month of Casalou. Hold on, is that a problem there? I thought the Feast of Tabernacles was in the 7th month. Casalou is the 9th month. Well, no, it's not a problem. This isn't talking about the literal Feast of Tabernacles. No, this is still talking about the Feast of Dedication. This is still talking about Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a high holy day that we keep in the same way that we keep the Feast of Tabernacles. The Feast of Tabernacles is a high holy day that we keep for 8 days. It's the same thing with the Feast of Dedication. Matter of fact, jump over to verse 18.
Verse 18. Therefore, whereas we are now proposed to keep the purification of the temple upon the 5 and 20th day of the month of Casalou, we thought it necessary to certify you thereof, that ye also might keep it.
That ye also might keep it. Just to show them who they talk, who this is being, who is being spoken to. Jump up to verse 1.
Verse 1. Chapter 1 and 1. The brethren, the Jews that be be at Jerusalem and in the land of Judea, which unto the brethren.
So this is the Jews that live in Jerusalem in the land of Judea, writing to the brethren, the Jews, read.
The Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace. So
this is the Jews in Judah, throughout Judea and Jerusalem, writing to the Jews that live in Egypt, that are living in Egypt. Watch what they tell them. Jump back down to verse 18.
Verse 18. Therefore, whereas we are now proposed to keep the purification of the temple upon the 25th day of the month of Caselu, we thought it necessary to certify you thereof.
We thought it necessary to certify you Jews that are in Egypt. We thought it necessary to certify you thereof. Read.
Thereof, that ye also might keep it.
That you also might keep it. Why? Because it's something that's been ordained by the entire congregation of Israel. It's something that we have bound here in earth, and it's bound in heaven for all of us to keep it. Keep reading.
As the feast of the tabernacles.
And we are to keep the feast of dedication in the same way that we keep the feast of tabernacles. And it don't matter what a Negro says. The Bible says we are to keep the feast of dedication the same way we keep the feast of tabernacles, yo. The same exact way, meaning the first day of the feast of dedication is going to be a holy convocation, a Sabbath. The last day of the feast of dedication is going to be a holy convocation, a Sabbath. We keep it the same way we keep the feast of tabernacles, yo. Read.
Which was, the feast of tabernacles and of the fire, which was given us when Nehemiah offered sacrifice.
Nehemiah is Nehemiah. Read.
After that he had built the temple and the altar.
Give me chapter 10 again. Go back to chapter 10. Let's read verse 6.
The book of Second Maccabees, chapter 10 and verse 6. And they kept 8 days with gladness, as in the Feast of Tabernacles.
As in the Feast of Tabernacles. We are to keep the 8 days of dedication as we keep the Feast of Tabernacles, yo. Keep reading.
Remembering that not long afore they had held the Feast of Tabernacles, when as they wandered in the mountains and dens like beasts.
When they wandered in the mountains and the dens like beasts. Now I'm going to close out, but I want to close out with this story. 2 Maccabees 9. I don't know if I don't want to read the whole thing. Let me see what I want to pick up at. Let's start at 1.
All right. The book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 9 and verse 1.
Remember we read earlier that Antiochus, this little horn, he would magnify himself against the prince of princes, against the prince of hosts, and he would be broken without hand, right? Well, we're going to read about the history of Antiochus being broken without hand. Read that.
The book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 9 and verse 1. About that time came Antiochus with dishonor out of the country of Persia, for he had entered the city of Persepolis, and went about to rob the temple and to hold the city. Whereupon the multitude running to defend themselves with their weapons put them to flight. And so it happened that Antiochus, being put to flight of an inhabitants, returned with shame.
He got chased out. Read.
And now when he came to
Ecbatane. Ecbatane is Ecbatana. Keep reading.
Ecbatane, news was brought him what had happened unto Nicanor and Timotheus.
Yeah,
Timotheus. Then swelling with anger, he thought to avenge upon the Jews the disgrace done unto him by those that made him flee.
Antiochus was pissed. He couldn't beat the bully, so he tried to come over here and said, look, I can't mess with them. I'm going to go take my anger out on these Jews over here. Keep reading.
Therefore commanded he his chariot man to drive without ceasing, and to dispatch the journey, the judgment of God now following him. For he has spoken proudly
He spoke real proud, Joe.
And
real
this
proud.
sort,
Read.
that he would come to Jerusalem.
This is his pride speaking. I'm going to come to Jerusalem. Read.
And make it a common burying place of the Jews.
This is his pride talking. I'm going to come into Jerusalem and make it a burying place for the Jews. Well, come into Jerusalem and make it a burying place for the Jews, but couldn't make, what was it at? Persepolis, a burying place for them, though. Hey, keep going, man.
Verse 5. But the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, smote him, with an incurable and invisible plague.
Yeah, he magnified himself against the Prince of Princes, against the Prince of Hosts, and he was broken without hand. All God did was just smite him with an incurable and invisible plague. An incurable and invisible sickness, yo. Disease. Keep reading.
For as soon as he had spoken these words,
as soon as he opened his Caucasian cracker lips, read,
a pain of the bowels that was remediless came upon him, and sore torment of his inner.
He was in pain, goddammit, read.
And that most justly, for he had tormented other men's bowels with many and strange torments.
And most justly, because the fruit tormented other men's bowels with strange torments, and only God knows what these Greek white people were doing. I see your face. I don't even need to know. I ain't gonna cap. I don't need to know. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, we can stop right there. That's the end of the class, yo. I ain't got nothing else to add. Priest, you got something you want to say?
No, bro.
All praises to the Most High, man. Well, Lord's will, I hope that was edifying. We're going to end the class the same way that we started off, by giving all praises and honor and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, through his only begotten Son, Jesus the Christ. Secondly, I want to say shalom to all my brothers and sisters out there that check out the videos and the street teachings and listen to the class lessons. I want to say shalom to y'all. My name is Chief Priest Lithiel.
Shalom, my name is Priest Ron Ben Israel.
And we are the Holy Nation of Israel. You can find us on YouTube at Strait of Israel. You can find us on Facebook at Holy Nation of Israel. You can find me on Facebook at Lithiel Ben Israel.
And you can find me, Ron Ben Israel, on Facebook as well.
Hey, y'all like, comment, share, subscribe. Did I miss something? Like, comment, share, subscribe, comment.
Share.
And on all the various social media platforms, yo. Support the truth. Support the truth. Shalom.
Shalom, Israel.